Jules, they're ninth in the Premier League, which overall has got pretty poor standard this season, considering everything else that's been going on with all those other clubs. And you're trying to sell me that this isn't an atrocious sign, that there's hope there?
No, there's certainly hope because they've got really good young players. I think they've got the right manager in place for sure for years to come.
Why? What have you seen from Arteta? What has he done?
I think in the way they play, you can certainly see the patterns of play, what he asks his players to do. I think the problem is he doesn't have, certainly in some positions, players who are not good enough to do what he wants them to do. And that's a problem for any managers at any level in the whole entire world. If you don't have players good enough for what you want them to express on the pitch and to produce on the pitch, then you're in trouble. But certainly I think that the ideas that Arteta has, his methodology, his philosophy, and what he's asking the players, because when it's clicked this season and when he has worked, you saw how good they could have been. And then if you put on top of that the likes of Shaka and Emil Smith-Rowe, those young players, Kieran Tierney, even Gabriel, I think, although he made a mistake today, there is some nice players there. The problem, as I've been saying, Dan, is that consistency has been a huge issue. And at times, I give you that, especially between November and December, when they had that horrendous run of bad results, it's been a real problem. That's why they're ninth in the table.
Just a heads up, Needum, Jules is very much an Arsenal fan, just so we can clear that up so you understand where this is coming from. I'm sorry, I'm not buying what you're selling, Needum.
Well, you say that, but you do say you were an Arsenal fan. You did say that, didn't you?
Definitely.
Because it sounds to me like you enjoy being outraged more so than you enjoy the good times. And for Arsenal, they've had a bad season. It's clear, it's obvious to see. They're in ninth. But I think they can get better. I think if you were in a position whereby you thought they're only going to get worse, then I'd be more concerned. I wouldn't be surprised if next year, maybe they're eighth. Maybe things are looking up.
Oh my God!
But at the end of the day, no, they're nowhere near as good as they could be or should be. But they do have young talent now, which is exciting some of the fan base. And I think for times gone by, they've not really had that. So there is hope, there's optimism, and I think if they nurture that talent and put the right pieces around them, then I think they can be a more dynamic and sort of more enjoyable team to watch. Because at times this year they've looked good, and other times they've looked like they did against Liverpool, where you wonder why did they even turn up. But I think next year will be better, but this year has been one for the books for them for sure.
Why does Arteta keep getting a pass, Needum?
Because you have to ask yourself the question, what else? What's he doing off the field? Is there anybody else that they can bring in? Is he part of a long-term project? Is he part of a short-term thing? And, if you believe that a manager is part of a long-term project, then you have to give them time. But if you bring somebody in and say you're going to get time, but you don't give it to them, then what's the point in hiring them in the first place? And it seems to me like Arsenal have become a project, which is crazy to say, but they have become a project. And ultimately for Arteta, I think his real judgment comes next season. Because this year, as I say, it's been a very much of a down year. But if he can build and turn it into something better next year, then you could say that the investment in his time this year was worth it for the next.
All Arsenal's problems are mentality issues for them, in my opinion. And it speaks to their successes and their failures. You mentioned the FA Cup last season, the Community Shield at the start of this season, the result against Slavia Prague. In cup competitions where Arsenal have to employ a cup mentality where it's win or go home. That's where you've seen Arsenal be at their best. But at the same time, our criticism around Arsenal seemingly weekly is the lack of real strong characters within that dressing room. And while we're talking about cup games and league games both being 90 minutes, in league games you feel as though you have another chance. And you have another chance next week. Before you know it, you're in November or December, and there's no chance of you finishing top four. And that's where you miss the personalities, the strong mentalities most within the dressing room. And to your question about why Arteta is getting a pass, is because of those cup wins. And because if you're sitting in Arsenal's boardroom, you think what we're missing is leaders on the field, on the other side of the white line. Whereas other clubs take different mentalities where you ask for that leadership quality from the sidelines. Atletico Madrid is the first club that comes to mind, where you see that club take on the personality of its manager. Arsenal are asking or expecting something totally different. They want to find the player that transforms a very talented Arsenal team to have that cup mentality week in, week out in the league.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.